All right. So in this lab, what we're going to do is make an environment. Okay. So the main thing to do here is we're going to work broad to specific. I'm also going to work out to in. Okay. So make sure I got my channel box here. It's also this button here. I'm just going to pull this over. I'm going to start with a fresh scene. Now we should still be in the same project folder that we've been making our character in. So we'll have our character model in there, and we'll also have the environment model. It's still going to be in the same project, though. Okay, so it's not like we're starting a whole new Maya project window. We're working in the same project. We're just going to have other scenes in there, and this scene is going to be with our environment. Okay, so make sure that you're still working in there. I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. So, but start with a fresh scene, just file new and what have you. All right, so. It kind of makes a difference whether you're doing an inside or outside scene. I'm going to do an inside scene, but I'm going to start making like an outside scene just so you can kind of see how you would make one. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sphere, okay? And you can see we have this sphere here, and that looks acceptable. I'm going to go ahead just because I like to make things quads. I'm going to grab this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge, and hit delete, right? So now it's all quads. I actually don't need the bottom, so I'm going to actually, you know what we're going to do? Usually I delete it. Let's do the same thing on the bottom. I'm actually going to do this a little bit differently. Grab this, and delete. Okay. And what I want to do is I could just delete the bottom, but instead I'm going to extract the bottom. So I'm going to go to face, and let's switch to a side view. I'm going to tap spacebar, grab the bottom here. So I just have the bottom faces, click and drag. Right click, drag to face, make sure. Okay. And then right here, I think this is extract. Yeah, hit extract. And now I'm just going to click off and make sure I'm in object mode. And now you'll see we have a top and a bottom. Yay. Okay. Now I'm just going to scale this up quite a bit bigger. I'm just going to grab both of them and just hit R for scale. And I'm just going to scale it much larger just because. What I'm doing is I'm making a skybox, if you're familiar with that, like in games and stuff. So with that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the, actually I'll take both of them and I'm going to subdivide them just because this looks pretty pixelated. So I'm just going to hit this for the poly smooth. And let's do it twice just to make sure it's, oops, I don't know why I did it like that. Let's just click off, click back on, and poly smooth, there it goes. Okay. Top one's fine. The bottom one, I want this to actually be my ground plane. So with it selected, I'm going to flatten it. So I'm just going to go like this and click and go like and pull it to the center like so. And pull it to the center. And so now what you're going to see is if we're inside of it, it's going to be black, right? Because the faces are facing outside. So I need to reverse those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one first. And actually we got to do it to both anyways, but we'll do one. We'll do mesh display and we're just going to do reverse. Now if I go inside, you'll see, if I click off, this is now facing inside, and that's facing outside, okay? Because this is going to be our ground plane. And we need to do the same thing with the sky. So with this selected, I can actually just hit G, like good game, to repeat the last action, or again, it's just mesh display reverse. Now one of the problems is, is that I can't see it unless I get inside of this, which is kind of annoying. Here's a neat little trick, and we're going to use it in a little bit too. I'm going to select this sphere, and then in the attribute editor, which is this button here, I have a tab for it. You can also hit Control A if you're on a PC. If you go down to render stats, you'll see right here that it has all these things. Okay? And right now it says double-sided. If you turn that off, it will only show one side of the face. And now I can look into it and see the other side, and when you're inside you can see it, but we can't see back faces. It looks through the back faces, which is super handy because now I can go like this without having to worry about that being in the way. Okay, so I'm going to call that good as far as an outside environment skybox, we'll call it, is needed. Yeah, and then after that, if you're doing an outdoor scene, I would just put like trees and stuff and, adjust it from there. But I'm going to leave that alone. Actually, there's one other thing I would do too, and that would be to this. So I'm going to select the bottom, got to rotate underneath, and then I'm going to hit Shift I. All right. So it's synced. I can't see it up there, but it's Shift I, like itty, icky, Ivan. All right. I'm going to grab this, and then I'm just going to go to the Sculpting tab. I'm just going to use this little Sculpting tool right here, this one. And then B, like bad boy, is brush size. So you hold B, click and drag left and right. And then M, like magnitude. So B like brush, M like magnitude. That is how, just like when we were in Mudbox. And I'm just going to basically just sculpt some variance in my ground plane, just so it's a little bit more interesting and not just purely flat. Okay. So if you look, these brushes are actually stolen from Mudbox. Okay. Let's do some more magnitude. Not pulling it up very high. Because that'll just break the plane up a little bit. Like if you were seeing it from here, you can see now there's just a little bit of variation. That's the idea, man. I'm not going to go too nuts because I'm not actually going to use this, but just want you to see it. So to get back out of the tool, I just need to hit Q, W, E, or R. Any one of the main things. Okay, that looks fine. If I were to do an outside scene, I would do much more with this. But for now, that's good. So I'm going to click off and just hit Shift-I with nothing selected. And everything comes back. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to take this, we're going to put it on a layer so it's not in our way. So click and drag over both items and click on the ball and paper. So again, I'm in the channel box. It's this button or this, ball and paper. That's going to make a new layer with the selected items. And I'm just going to call this Skybox. Skybox. Okay. Doop. And then if I click on it once, that makes a template, which you see a wireframe, and I can't select it. R is reference, and I can't select it, but I can see it. And then if you click it one more time, you're back to being normal. Okay, so I'll just click it twice. The reason why that's good is because otherwise I'd be constantly clicking. Like I might think I'm in it right here, but watch. I'm clicking on this outside, even though I think that I'm good. So you'd constantly be fighting with trying to select things. So it's good to just, do that. And now I don't have to worry about clicking on it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a room. So I'm only actually going to animate inside of a room. I don't need to build the whole house. You only model what you are going to be using, right? There's no sense in modeling something that you're never going to see. It's just a waste of time. So literally, if you look at like some scenes in movies and stuff, they don't even model the other side of the room. They'll just model the one side that the camera's facing, and then the other side there's nothing because the camera never turns around. There's no need for it. So I'm going to model a whole room anyway, just on the off chance I want to move the camera around, but I'm not going to worry about modeling a whole house. So I'm going to do kind of similar to what I did here, but this time we're going to choose a cube. I'm going to click on cube. All right. And then I have this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit W and pull it up. And I want the pivot. I'm going to hit F to frame it because I was way far out. F like Freddy. And I want to make this pivot down here. So I'm going to hold D like dead dog and V like very venereal vagabond. So hold both of those keys and then just click and drag to like this point. And then I only grab the center one. So now the pivot's in the bottom. So that'll be a little bit easier. And now I'm going to hold just V. So D is move pivot. V is point snap. So I'm going to hold V again. And I'm just going to point snap it to the ground. So now that way it's on the ground here. Maybe pull it up just a little bit just so it's not quite on the ground. And then I'm just going to R for scale. Whoop. Like that. Some odd amount. And you can see it's really tall. So I'm going to scale down this. And here's where I got to decide how I want my room to be. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit more. And I'm going to do a semi-long room. Because I'm going to do this somewhat. I'm going to make it look like kind of like what my office situation is here. Which is more or less a longer, thinner room. Like this. It's almost like a hallway. It's a big long thing. So anyway, that looks acceptable. Now, from here, what I would do is cut in anything that you need. Okay, so for instance, you might want to have windows, or you might need to have other rooms, like maybe that you can see another room. Don't do this. I'm just going to show you because I'm going to undo this. But if I want to make another room, I would use my multi-cut tool. Let's say I just want to have a door here because there is actually a door here. grab, cut, side, top, I'd extrude, Control E, like so. Looks fine. Actually, that's probably kind of a little bit long. I'm not doing exactly a hallway. And then Control E again. I'm just going to pull this one all the way to where I want it to go. And then I could, I guess we'll just grab this one first. I'll grab this, Control E, pull it up, and I'd want it the same height, obviously. And then I would grab this, and Control E, and pull it however far the room's supposed to go. And then Control E, grab those two faces, and pull it like that. And voila, if we get inside, well, it's backwards right now because we didn't flip the things yet, but if I were inside of this, if I can get inside, come on buddy, you can do it. Move in, here we go. You can see that now it's basically, there's like two rooms with a doorway, okay? So that's how you would do that. I'm just going to undo it real quick because I don't need that. So Control Z, or just Z really, but make sure we didn't. Good. Okay. Now I might want a window, so I do actually. Oops, I don't need all this either. I might want a window. So if you do need a window, and we will do, go ahead and do this part because I am going to cut this window in here, and then top and bottom, and then I'm just going to grab this face and hit delete. Okay, or actually, don't hit delete. Undo that. Let's just extrude it, pull it out a little bit like this, and then hit delete. That way, from the inside, it'll make it look like the wall has thickness. Now, obviously, if you look on the outside, you can see there is no thing, but on the inside, you won't be able to tell. Okay. All right. So that'll be my window. That's the only window to the outside world. Other than that, that's all I really have here. Okay. So we do that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to do the same thing I did with my skybox. I'm going to flip the faces. So I'm going to go to Mesh Display, Reverse. So now when I'm inside, it will look correct, right? And it'll be black on the outside. And I'm going to go to the Attribute Editor, go to the Shape node, and then Render Stats, and turn off Double-Sided. Okay? Now, if there was any other irregularity to this room or anything like that, I would make sure I did all that. It's a little bit easier to do it without it being in this mode because when you go to cut faces and stuff and it's reversed, sometimes the tools act a little weird. That's why I waited till I was done with that part of it. I'm going to turn off the grid here because I don't find that particularly helpful. I'm going to move this up just a little bit, make sure I'm not touching the ground. Okay, so we're going to call that our room, real basically. And I'm going to go back to Channel Box, and with it selected, just the room selected, I'm going to go ahead and add that to another layer. And we'll just call this Room Walls. And save. And same thing, boom, boom, and that way I can see it, but it's not like in my way, okay? That'll just make things a little bit easier. All right, so now we can start, and actually I'm going to turn off the skybox so that way I can see my room a little bit better. Just hit the V here. So now I should be able to do it. Now on this side I actually have a door, but you notice I didn't actually cut all that in because I don't need to. As far as like if you were looking at it from my perspective, there would just be a door there, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and make a cube. I'm going to pull it over, pull it up. I'm going to scale it a little bit flatter. It doesn't really matter if I scale it all that much flatter. And then I'm going to scale it roughly to door size. Pull it up a little bit more like that. Scale it wider to door width. And then I am just going to stick it on the wall. And as far as the person can tell, that looks like there's just a door there, right? Now, if I was going for like realism and I'm trying to do, then yes, I would cut in a hole and all that. But we're not really that worried about it. This will work totally fine for what we're trying to do. All right, so we're going to call that good. Good. All right, so the next things to do basically are the elements inside the room. So we've kind of blocked out a room. Now we need to actually start making it. So the best way to do this is to work broad to specific. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make primitives for all the objects, real basically, and then I'm going to go through to each of them, and I will subdivide them and make them look a little better. So this is going to be my desk, more or less. So that's going to be, my desk is kind of a cube. So I'm just going to go over here. And you want to think about what the primitives are that make up your objects, right? So my desk is kind of a long rectilinear shape. Call that good. And we'll move it over here. Right, and then the legs are cylinders. Scale that thinner. Pull it up and R. And just to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to W, D, and V and point snap it to the top. And then what I can do is on my, I'm going to turn on wireframe on shaded so I can see my lines. This button right here. And I'm going to hold V for point snap it to this corner. And I'm just going to pull it in a little bit farther. And then I'm just going to scale it this direction until it goes into the ground, which is right there. Okay. There's one leg. Control D, W. Pull it over here. Grab both of them. Come on. You can do it. Control D. And then push both back until they are roughly in the back. Okay, that's a crappy looking desk. Alright, great. Alright, so next what I have is a monitor and my computer and all the other stuff. So again, it's mostly quads. Okay. So I have a desktop right here. So I'm just going to kind of pull it. You don't have to follow my exact things here. Just, do what you can. Is that about the right size? So let's scale it. Let's scale down a little bit. Okay. And again, I'm just going to try and make it. Now, the easiest way to make sure that it's like on there, see how like it's going in and it's hard? It's just to do this. Pull it up, hold D for move pivot, hold V for point snap. And then I'm going to grab the middle one, or the Y axis, and I'm going to pull it, and then I'm going to pull my cursor to this point. What it'll do is that it will snap to that point. Now I'm going to hold just V for point snap, grab the Y, and then I'm going to pull it to this thing's point. And now I know that's perfectly flat on there. Okay, so, and I'm just going to use this as a guide for the next thing. So I'm going to duplicate it, bring this over, I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to hold the J for increment. So it does it in 90 degree or 15 degree increments. And this will be my monitor. So it's definitely a lot thinner. It's actually like literally the same height, so it might be slightly taller. And then it's definitely wider. So, and we'll just move this over. Definitely a lot thinner than that. Okay, that's okay. I'll control D, W. I have two monitors, so I have another monitor over here, and this one's considerably smaller. This is my supporting monitor. W, and it's also rotated like this. Okay. And let's take this guy again. Come on. Control D like this, and then I'm going to rotate this over for a keyboard. E, and then I'm just going to hold J again. Till it gets to 90. Good. And then I'm just going to scale it down. Scale it this way. And then it's got to come up a little bit. It's a little too fat still. W down. Sorry. Okay. Scale down. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a chair. So my chair can be kind of described in a couple different ways. I'm just going to go ahead and do a cube again for the most part. And I'm going to pull this guy up. And we'll just scale it flat-ish and wide-ish. A little bit more like that. This is where my behind goes. Pull that down. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it. Control D. Pull it up. Rotate it this direction. go this way. Move it back and over. And it's definitely taller, so I'm just going to scale it up like that. Like so. And then there is a cylinder there, but I'm just going to duplicate one of these legs instead of making a new one, so Control D. Pull that over. I want to hold V for point snap. V. I'm just going to point snap it to there, just click and drag. That way I know it's right on the base of it. It's going to be a little bit off, but we'll just go with it. And then I'm going to R for scale. Like so. And what I'll do is basically kind of block out everything like that. Okay, so so actually let me do one more. I'm going to do a mouse. So I would normally have a mouse, right? So I'm going to make a sphere. I'll pull this up and over because a mouse is sort of spherical-like. And I'll just flatten it quite a bit. And go like this. And pull that down. Crap, I forgot I had that. Okay. That's a big mouse. Let's make that a bit smaller. Alright, we'll pull that over here. Pull that down a little bit. Okay. So, what I will do is I'm going to go through and basically I would just build out everything like that, right? Now, I know it looks ugly and what have you, but from a distance, you can tell what it is, right? So the farther away you are from the model, from whatever it is, the less geometry it should have. The more close up you are, the more geometry it needs in order to look good. Because as you get closer and closer, you can start to see every face more and more. But when you get far away, the number of faces per pixel that you're seeing becomes, proportionally better. So the idea here is that this is good for multiple reasons. For one, I could lay out the whole room. I could show it to my art director or my supervisor, whoever your boss is, your client. You'd be like, hey, this is kind of the rough layout, what we're looking to do. Is this right? Is this like what the room looks like? Is this proportionately correct? Does this fit the character? And then they would be like, yay or nay. Or if you're doing like, let's say, or also if you're in a production and let's say it's animation, you could give them this real basic thing that could get done in like half an hour. I can hand it off to the animators, and if it's good, they can start animating in the scene. As long as they're not interacting with anything, like if the animator has got to like jump around on a chair, then yeah, it's not going to work because that's not the final chair. But if they're just like walking through the room, you know what I mean, or they're just standing there talking, they could at least have the characters, put them in the right spots, start animating, and then as I get done, we'll just replace the environment that they animated in with the newer one, or it'll automatically update. Which is nice because that allows them to start working and me to keep working at the same time. Instead of us waiting for one person to get done and then that person has nothing to do, and then, you know what I mean? So this way everybody's working and we're all working together. Another advantage is for game design, let's say I'm making a level, right? And I make an awesome room here and it looks great. And then they go to play the level and it's like there's no place for, let's say it's a shooter game, there's no place for anybody to like, conceal themselves or hide or, it's not interesting. There's no paths that are really obvious and it's not fun to play. Well, any time I spent modeling that room, I now have to like destroy it and remodel it. And so I just waste it all the time. But instead, if I do what we call a gray box world, I could lay out all these cubes here and they could play the game. They'll have the base mechanics and stuff and it won't look pretty, but they can play the game, be like, yeah, that works. Or, we should move the desk over here because that would force them to go that way. You know what I mean? And so you can basically get a rough version of the game, start playing, especially like for multiplayer levels or even single player levels. If you're trying to direct a player in a direction, which is what you do when you direct someone, then you would help that flow, and you could test it now without, again, spending a lot of time on something that you end up having to throw away anyway. And also they have something to work with, the people who are engineering other parts of the game, and it allows everyone to work at the same time. So that's why it's advantageous to just basically do kind of a gray box world like we're doing here, and then further develop it from that point. And if you run out of time, then at least you have something rough that you can work with. And you get an idea, and also while you're working, you can see the whole composition. Instead of getting like focused in on a detail, I can see the entirety of it and be like, oh, this looks okay. I need to move this over here, and I need more things over here. And then I will start to gradually build up everything. Okay, so I'm probably going to add some more items in the before the next before we do the next video here, because in the next video what I'm going to do is I'm just going to concentrate on one object. I'll probably just concentrate on this desk area, but normally I would fill out everything, okay? But I'm going to block out some more stuff, and then in the next video we're going to kind of finalize what we have here, okay? I won't do anything that we haven't already modeled. So I'm going to call this one good, and then the next one we'll fix this up and make it look a little bit nicer.